Guys, what's up? It's Joe Raiti from Raiti's Rides. We're back here in the house of Raiti's Rides, and we are here to showcase and focus on what were my top 10 SUVs and trucks of 2022. We drove a lot of them, we went on throttle, and we got to experience some of them in a very unique environment depending on where the media drive took place. So let's go ahead, let's find out what are my top 10 favorite trucks and SUVs of 2022 in no particular order. Let's go ahead and get to it. First up, we gotta start off the list with one bad mamma jamma. That's gonna be the new Ford F-150 Raptor R. It's crazy because I got an invitation to go to Michigan to drive this, and I was like, where are we gonna drive this truck? But there's some beautiful sand dunes in this park right on Lake Michigan where we were able to put this supercharged V8 Raptor through its paces, and that really allowed us to kind of say to ourselves, how good is this truck? And that's why it's definitely in the top 10. Now remember, these trucks and SUVs are in no particular order, but this was definitely one of my favorites. That Predator V8, 5.2 liters of supercharged V8 goodness. Love the carbon fiber. I'm already a big fan of the interior of the F-150, especially with the larger infotainment system, but the cameras, the digital dash, the seats were superb, especially when you needed that forward-facing camera as we were off-roading. 10-speed automatic, shift like a hot knife through butter. And I guess the biggest thing that I could say, because I had a lot of people say, Joe, are you going Raptor R or are you going Ram TRX? I'm going Raptor R, and I think the reason why is because it's so composed. With the 700 horsepower, it's so composed in the sound. I mean, watch this. As the launch control, it's just unbelievable how this thing just leaves off the line, and we're on pavement. It was even more impressive when we're in the dirt. And like I said, nobody's gonna argue with the sound of that V8. I guess my only zonk for the sound, but I'd like to have a little bit more supercharger whine. But that's one of the reasons why if I was gonna buy a TRX or a Raptor R, I would go Raptor R. It's just more composed. It showcases all of the Ford performance racing that they do in the Baja 500, in the Baja 1000, and that was something that I felt like the TRX didn't have. And that is one of the many reasons why the Raptor R is in my top 10. Next up, if you're looking for the ultimate in family haulers, we were in Bozeman, Montana. Beautiful part of the country, definitely a beautiful part of Montana. We were in the Jeep Grand Wagoneer L. L standing for that extra length. That seems to be a flavor of the day with these SUVs, is that you get the standard length and then you go for the L, which makes it even longer. So Grand Wagoneer has always been, for this generation, a 3-row SUV, but now you got a little bit more room, especially for that 3rd row. But I think the bigger thing was the Hurricane engine. That is that straight 6 twin turbocharger putting out 510 horsepower. So if you're thinking that without the V8 you're going to be lacking for horsepower, that's definitely not going to happen. No other vehicle that we have driven has as many screens as this vehicle. So if you're into technology, if you count up all the dimensions of all the screens in the car, you're looking at over 70 inches of screen. So definitely one of those ones that, like I said, if you want the technology, they elevated the whole level of fit, feel, and finish. In the mid-row, they even get their own screens, not only for watching Fire Stick through Amazon Prime, but also being able to watch Raiti's Rides on YouTube. And in that 3rd row, I felt like I was sitting in the mid-row of a vehicle. That's how generous the room was. And then definitely generous extra heapings of horsepower and torque from that 3-liter straight 6 twin turbocharged engine. And it's fascinating. I didn't really find myself missing the V8 on throttle experience when I was behind the wheel. I think they did a good job with the tuning of the engine. Not a bunch of turbo lag off the line, and definitely pulls like a freight train as you go through the rev range. Next vehicle, I'm actually loving this thing just because simply the color is going to be that Toyota Sequoia TRD Pro. We were in the big old state of Texas for this one. That's the home of Toyota. And what better way to experience the Sequoia than the kind of full bore off-road spec, the TRD Pro. You got those BBS forged wheels. You got the Fox racing suspension, the TRD springs, and then that solar flare orange. I thought it looked good on the Tundra TRD Pro. It looks even better on the Sequoia. Nice bold body lines. I guess where the zonks kind of come into play is going to be some of that interior space, not as generous as some of the other full-size SUVs like the Tahoe Z71, but I'm in love with the 14-inch infotainment system. Very versatile, very easy to use, lots of storage places, and you could just tell that that vehicle, you could drive it through anything and it's gonna have that lasting effect. That not only is it gonna make you feel good when you're driving it, but you know it's a Toyota product, so it's gonna have that reliability. It's just the third row, forget about it. You would have to fold me a couple different ways to make me fit comfortably back there. But everything else was spot on the money, especially when it came to performance. I mean, the twin turbo V6, you got plenty of power. Yeah, you don't have your V8, but look at it. We're going through the water pit. We're climbing rocks. It's got such a good 4x4 system. And like I said, at the end of the day, it looks really, really good. And the interior, just so rock solid. Like no creaks, no rattles. And these were pre-production vehicles that we're driving, guys. But yet it sounded so good. And here we are, we're actually at Eagles Canyon Raceway, going through their off-road course, letting her rip, letting her hang out a little bit to kind of really get that feel for how the vehicle performed. And that's definitely another big reason, obviously, the On Throttle experience on why it made it into the top 10. But all those other things that I mentioned really just kind of checked off all the boxes. Another one, which the first time ever that this vehicle is being made, is the Acura MDX Type S. Say what you may about it, that you'd rather go get a BMW, you'd rather go get an Audi, you'd rather go get a Mercedes AMG product. There's just something about the driving engagement of this vehicle. Just like I feel good behind the wheel of an Acura NSX, I felt really good behind the wheel of this MDX Type S. Now, sure, would I have liked to have seen a little bit more horsepower? Of course. But from a look standpoint, no arguing Acura's reliability, but also how they did the interior. I don't care that it doesn't have a touchscreen. That doesn't bother me. I have trained myself to use the Acura interface as if an owner of one of the vehicles, which of course I'm not. I don't own one, but by driving many of them, I've been able to really successfully use that interface pad. It works seamless. I guess for me, I would have cut down a little bit more on the gloss black, but the On Throttle experience from that turbocharged V6, the largest wheels ever on an MDX, the horsepower and the balance. I think that's the key, is the On Throttle balance. I love also the seating materials. They do a great job with the piping, the stitching, and everything in between. Me personally, I would take this Apex Blue. The Tiger's Eye is not my favorite color, especially in low light. It sort of looks like, I don't know, like baby poo. But in Apex Blue, now you're talking my language. You're speaking my language. But here's another place you're speaking my language. Twisty bits. Love the way the car, even though it sits higher as an SUV, you still got great balance. It felt very poised at all four corners. And it just really provided a nice smile on your face. But that's why it's in my top 10. Of course, next we have the Beast. And what I mean by the Beast is the over 9,000 pound GMC Hummer EV. Now, I've already told you this. I'm not the biggest fan of EVs, but something has to be said about this Hummer EV truck. I mean, it is a technological tour de force on what is capable from an auto manufacturer when it comes to technology. 3 electric motors, over 1,000 horsepower. I mean, come on. Now, yes, as you go through the charge range, you lose horsepower, but when fully charged 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, if that doesn't put a smile on your face, you're probably dead. You're probably being driven to your funeral in this. That's why you don't have a smile on your face. But anyways, technology, nice large infotainment, the digital dash. I love the way it's got that infinity roof system where you take the glass roof panels off. It gives you that old school Targa and T-top feel. You got more storage than that they had on the lunar landing. And speaking of the lunar landing, you got all those great accents of as if the vehicle was able to drive on the moon. And I think that's my favorite part is they could have went full like silly retro, but they did it in a very contemporary, futuristic, and old school way that they really hit a nail on the head. You got that rear wheel steering that allows U-turns like you're driving a little bitty golf cart. And then of course, you got crab walk. You could surprise all your friends. You could be that guy that's getting filmed more than a Lambo owner leaving Cars and Coffee. How do I know? Because I actually did that. I crab walked from a Cars and Coffee event in my press fleet vehicle GMC Hummer EV truck. So there you go. And then on the trails, even with this thing being bigger and wider than a Ford F-250 Super Duty, it goes down the trails at Joshua Tree National Park so cleanly. So it's like the effort level is so minimal because of that rear wheel steer. And then you have that on throttle experience. That's why. Now I know this next one, you're probably like, Joe, what the hell's going on here? We were in Santa Barbara. I have always been, and I've never hidden this, a fan of Mazda vehicles because of the driving engagement, because of that old school zoom feel. If I was to get an SUV, this is going to be one of the ones I would get. I love the CX50 Turbo. Plenty of power. I don't give a damn that it has a 6-speed automatic transmission. I don't need 2 extra gears. Some of these transmissions are silly with 24 gears. 6-speed automatic transmission. It's lasted the test of time. You got great outside design, nice and wide. Sort of looks like a cool Outback. Like if an Outback was supposed to be cool looking, that looks like it. This is what it would look like, but it's a Mazda. And that's another reason why I like it. Standard all-wheel drive on the CX50. You got plenty of room, storage, and yes, you don't have a touchscreen, but it is a touchscreen if you have Apple CarPlay, which I do have Apple CarPlay. So technically it was a touchscreen for us when we were doing the media drive event. But all the finishes inside, you're getting premium touches without the premium price and very comfortable. There's something that Mazda does with their seats that is very, very comfortable. And I know there were other car reviewers saying that it looked like a G-string or something, the way that the seat was designed, or a thong or something. Like, that's just stupid. Like, they did a great job, in my eyes, with the way that they styled everything. And the dash is just simple and clean. Yeah, it's not full digital, but it's got exactly the information you need. What else do you want? And then the driving experience, even on the twisty roads, even when they took us on a light off-roading course, was great in the CX50. Very, very balanced. You only got the 2 fake vents on the back. All the other vents are functional, and I felt like it was right on the line when it came to the cladding. But talk about zoom, and talk about at an affordable price point. You don't have to go spend $70,000 on a BMW. This mid-30s, you're good to go. And like I said, it feels fantastic. Look at me carving the corners. Wonderful. Of course, like I said, this is trucks and SUVs. We got another truck in there. It's that Chevy Silverado ZR2. Boy, oh boy, I know a lot of people forget about this truck because everybody's like, Raptor, TRX, that's the only truck I could buy. Well, guess what? It's great to experience some of these other vehicles. And this Silverado ZR2 brought a lot to the table, especially with that Multimatic the DSSV, that dual spool technology suspension, absolutely phenomenal. Of course, we were able to showcase the new interior of the Silverado by doing this ZR2. That's where they knocked it out of the park. And then one thing I can never deny with General Motors media drive events, and not just car stuff, because I've said this in the past with the Cadillac drive at VIR, with the Corvette drive in Pittsburgh, they allowed us to put this Silverado ZR2 through its paces. And it was bulletproof. I mean, the way the suspension travel worked, the way just everything kind of came together. And that's why the On Throttle experience in this is so pleasing. Not because you could go to Cars and Coffee and say, I got 700 horsepower. It's not just about that. It's about having the usability. And that's where this thing really came to its own, climbing up the mountains, climbing over the hills, through the woods, all the way to grandmother's house. And guess what? There was no wolf there. So that's the good news. But as you can hear, that V8 sound, look at that. See ya, wouldn't want to be ya. Pure V8 power. And then look at this suspension travel. Lori did such a great job with this angle, lifting tires and wheels off the ground, the thing's still going. That space was so narrow, I thought I was gonna get stuck, but it didn't. And then here we are off-roading. We're doing about 80 miles an hour, and it's feeling good. That's how you know that you got a keeper, when it feels good. And of course, it's a good-looking truck. I mean, it looks badass from the front. So definitely the ZR2 provided some fun. Here we are just flat on throttle. I live for that stuff with the trucks. Yeah, rock crawling's cool, but when you could just lay it out on a Baja-style course and just let her rip, that's what it's all about. Jumping over those. Look at me working that wheel.
I don't know how much you can see.
No, just kidding. Just kidding about that. But the thing made me feel that good. Next up, we have the Lexus RX 500h F-Sport Performance. It's a mouthful, but it does bring a lot of unique features to the SUV segment, especially from some type of performance standpoint. You have your all-wheel drive, which this has a unique all-wheel drive system. You got rear-wheel steering. Anytime you could put rear-wheel steer on a vehicle, it's gonna blow you away how it handles, not only at slow speed maneuvers, like in a parking lot, but also on the high-speed twisty bit stuff. Now, yes, same kind of thing. Would I have liked to have seen more horsepower? Sure. But from a pure driving enjoyment, engagement situation, this really did the business. It brought the business, has a real 6-speed automatic transmission, no CVT hoopla. You got your hybrid technology. With that battery, it lowers the center of gravity. And if you haven't driven a hybrid, that's really where this SUV actually handles better than other SUVs, even other RXs. It handles better because of the lower center of gravity. And I personally really am digging all the different attributes to the interior. Now, is it perfect? No. When have I ever said any car is perfect? Even my own cars are not perfect. But they did elevate it, I feel, to a nice level with the technology. I mean, the interior colors, the way Lexus does that red, it's so sexy looking on a white exterior car. And I'm not really big into just pure plain white, but it works on this RX 500h F Sport Performance. Say that 20 times fast. Love the steering wheel, and I love the feeling that went from the front wheels to the steering wheel. Your passengers have some nice room. And then, like I said, when you think about how many vehicles have rear wheel steering, until you drive one, you just won't know. And this really was an eye-opener for me. It surprised me because I thought 500h performance, what the hell are they talking about? But this really allowed me to kind of see the balance of both. And it was a fun car to drive, and that's why it is in that top 10, and that's why I think a lot of people, once they drive it, will be wanting one of these RX 500h Sport Performances. If only they would just shorten up the name. Next, it's mean, it's green, and it's not Kermit. But some people say it looks like Kermit. It's the Porsche Macan GTS. I'll be honest, I was one of those people when they came out with the Cayenne that was like, what the hell are you talking about? Porsche's making an SUV? Porsche makes sports cars. But here we are, model year 2022, driving the Macan. The Macan is the smaller of the two, smaller than the Cayenne. The Macan is what really saved the company because they sell a ton of these and that affects the bottom line. I do like the way they did GTS for the Macan. It brings all those performance goodies. Plus you got turbocharged power that really allows you to put the biggest grin on your face. The way they did the style, I think Python green, I never thought a green SUV like that would look cool, but Python green just checks off the box for me for exterior color on this thing. Underneath the hood, that twin turbo V6 with launch control. And then of course on the interior, once you get into a Porsche, it makes sense. The green stitching all the way through, the carbon fiber. I mean, everything just has this solid, makes sense feel to it. Being a GTS, you got the Sport Chrono package. There's that beautiful stitching, the leather, the infotainment system works well. Very easy to figure out all of the different switch gear. I'm just not crazy about the amount of gloss black. But, you know, it's one of those things you gotta sometimes compromise. But I'm definitely not compromising on that interior. Those seats are absolutely beautiful. 18-way adjustable. A steering wheel plucked right out of the 911 GT3. What else can you ask for what you're gonna hold on to? And then of course the gauges, that nice large tack in the center. You got your digital display over to the right, analog power, and then here it is. I'm just gonna Yes, it's an SUV, but boy, that damn thing sounds good. And that's one of the many reasons why I put this in my top 10. I mean, it's that good of a vehicle. Here we are.
Here we go. Freaking incredible.
I can't hide how I feel. I mean, there's no faking that. It really put you back in the seat, and then the amount of grip you get from the all-wheel drive system. And you can tell that I enjoyed it because I think I did like 7 or 8 launches in this video. So if you haven't seen this video, definitely go back and watch it. And then here we are, the final one. And this one is my #1 favorite. So even though the rest weren't in order, this is my #1 favorite. And you know what it is? As you can see, it's the Cadillac Escalade V. What a vehicle. 682 horsepower, supercharged, launch control, and enough room to where you could freaking take the whole hockey team to the game and get there faster than anybody else. It's just one of those things that I'm so proud of Cadillac for doing this vehicle. Obviously not gonna be some high production vehicle, but they really went all in. And not only did they have that LT4 supercharged V8, has never looked better. I love the supercharger cover, but they bumped up the horsepower. Remember, they bumped it up from my Camaro ZL1 1LE with 650 horsepower. They bumped it up in the Blackwing, the CT5V Blackwing, 668 horsepower, and then they bumped it up again, 682 horsepower. You got the ability to control all that performance management and then to sound out the exhaust. I would go to parking lots, like grocery store parking lots. I didn't even need anything in the grocery store per se, but I would park it. I would go into the store and I would come back out and I would do the remote start when somebody was near it, and it would just scare the hell out of them because of that deep, throaty rumble from that LT4 supercharged V8. Only thing on the inside, I would like a little bit more supercharger whine, but you got the magnetic ride suspension 4.0. It's like a house on wheels that can handle. It's like, how did the engineers make it possible with this vehicle? And say what you may about the price. And if you're wondering, well, Joe, what is the price? It's $150,000. Here's the proof. The proof is open up and say, ah. I mean, that is just unbelievable. That sound, and just here it goes. Whoa. I mean, it's like a ginormous cruise missile. And the fact that you have all that room. So that's why it's my #1, is because of the versatility, usability, and they were able to break the laws of physics. Sir Isaac Newton if he was still alive, would drop dead of a heart attack because of how this vehicle operates. So, you know, say what you want, but definitely being behind the wheel was a pleasure. The automatic transmission, the 10-speed shifts unbelievably. The electronic limited slip diff gets the power to the ground, and then the suspension does the business. But you know what? We're gonna wrap it up, talk about this list, and I wanna hear what your favorites is, so let's go ahead and wrap it up with the top 10. All right, guys, there you have it. There is my top 10 list of favorite on-throttle driving SUVs and trucks, with the Escalade V being numero uno. Let me know what you think about the list down in the comment section. Do you have a favorite? And if there was one maybe like the Bronco Raptor or the EV6 or the Ioniq 5 and it didn't make the list and you thought it should have been there, put it down in that comment section. But I also have, if you have not seen yet, the bloopers for 2022 and the top 10 cars, on throttle cars here on Raity's Rides. I'll leave the link to those videos at the end of this one. But if you're new to the channel and you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. This is what we bring. This is just a sample. It's like the sample platter. Go in for a full 10-course meal on any of the Raity's Rides reviews. Definitely hit that subscribe button. If you are a subscriber, you know what we bring here. Thank you for your support and dedication. Talk about dedication, got to give it up to Lori Raiti, working this camera like a champ, but she is the one that not only put this video together with all the editing, the pulling of the video clips, but she did the top 10 cars of 2022 and the bloopers. So make sure you check out all of that. Show Lori some love in the comment section. Thank you, Lori, for all that you've done. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.